Who's the First Person in History Whose Name We Know? By Robert Krulwich. It's me, they'd say, and they'd leave a sign. Leave it on the cave wall, maybe as a prayer, maybe a graffito. We don't know. This was 30,000 years ago. Writing hadn't been invented, so they couldn't chalk their names on the rock. Instead, they'd flatten their hand, blow dust over it, and leave a silhouette. And for 30, 40 centuries across Europe, Asia, the Americas, and Australia, this is how cavemen, cave women, cave kids, hunters, nomads, farmers, and soldiers left their mark. Every one of these handprints belonged to an individual, presumably with a name, a history, and stories to tell. But without writing, we can't know those stories. We call them hunter-gatherers, cave people, Neolithic tribes. We think of them in groups, never alone. Tens of thousands of generations come and go, and we can't name a single person before 3200 BC, not a one. Then in Mesopotamia, writing appears, and after that people could record their words, sometimes in phonetic symbols, so we could listen in, hear them talking, and, for the first time, hear someone's name, our first individual. So who was it? Who is the first person in the recorded history of the world whose name we know? Just guessing here. Would it be a she or a he? Would he be a king, warrior, poet, merchant, commoner? I'm guessing not a commoner. To be mentioned in an ancient document, he'd need a reputation, tools, and maybe a scribe. He wouldn't be poor. Would he be a person of great accomplishment or just an ordinary Joe? The odds favor a well-regarded person, someone who is mentioned often. Regular Joes, I figured, would pop up irregularly, while a great king, a leading poet, or a victorious general would get thousands of mentions. So I trolled the internet, read some books, and to my great surprise, the first name in recorded history isn't a king, nor a warrior, or a poet. He was, it turns out, an accountant. In his new book, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Yuval Noah Harari goes back 33 centuries before Christ to a 5,000-year-old clay tablet found in Mesopotamia, modern Iraq. It has dots, brackets, and little drawings carved on it and appears to record a business deal. It's a receipt for multiple shipments of barley. The tablet says, very simply, 29,086 measures barley, 37 months, Kushim. The most probable reading of this sentence, Harari writes, is, a total of 29,086 measures of barley were received over the course of 37 months. Signed, Kushim. So who was Kushim? The word might have been a job title, not a person. Maybe Kushim meant barley assessor. It suggests that Kushim was indeed a guy, a record keeper who counted things for others. In short, an accountant. And if Kushim was his name, then with this tablet, Harari writes, we are beginning to hear history through the ears of its protagonists. When Kushim's neighbors called out to him, they might really have shouted, Kushim! It's pretty clear Kushim was not famous, not hugely accomplished, certainly not a king, so all of my hunches were off. But wait, the Kushim tablet is just one of tens of thousands of business records found on the deserts of Iraq. A single example is too random. We need more. So I keep looking and find what may be the second, third, and fourth oldest names we know of. They appear on a different Mesopotamian tablet. Once again, they are not the A-list ancients. Dated to around 3100 BC, about a generation or two after Kushim, the tablet's heading is, 2 slaves held by Galsal. Galsal is the owner. Next come the slaves, Enpap X and Sukolger. So now we've got 4 names, an accountant, a slave owner, and 2 slaves. No kings. They don't show up for another generation or so. The predominance of ordinary Sumerians doesn't surprise Harari. 5,000 years ago, most humans on Earth were farmers, herders, and artisans who needed to keep track of what they owned and what they owed. And that's how writing started. It was a technology for regular people, not a megaphone for the powerful. It is telling, Harari writes, that the first recorded name in history belongs to an accountant rather than a prophet, a poet, or a great conqueror. Most of what people did back then was business. Kings come, kings go, but keeping track of your barley, your sheep, your money, your property, that's the real story of the world.